Hello, wrestling fans, and welcome back to 10 Count. I'm Steve Fall, but on today's edition, I am talking to Maria Kanellis. How are you doing today?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
I'm doing great. We're rolling into the holiday season. No one can see on the other side of my studio. Christmas presents are stacking up to the ceiling, but here we are talking about a little wrestling. How are you doing today?
Good, good.
Good, because I know traveling around the world for professional wrestling must be a little difficult with kiddos. Now, do you travel with your family? Do they all come with you? Do they stay home with the grandma?
So a little bit of both. It kind of depends on what we're looking at. If it's a nice quick trip that, is just, one show or whatever, then it'll probably be just Mike and myself. But sometimes when there's a little bit longer trips, depending on where they're at, especially if they're in the Disney region,
Oh,
kiddos do make an appearance. Uh, but it really just depends. And now that there's two of them, they just get more chaotic. So we try our best to keep their schedule and everything they're doing pretty like, okay, we're going to this and this and this. Otherwise, as you know, kids just get very chaotic. So
yes.
not as much as we did with Fred. When Freddie was born, she was on 30 flights within the first 2 years of her life before
Woo!
COVID. Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand the traveling bit with children because when you bring them somewhere, you think, oh, a bag of goldfish, maybe their iPad, or their no, the things they love at home are not the things they love on an airplane. It's poking you in the eyeball while you're trying to figure out where is my luggage and where are we going. But yes, life is chaotic. I had a baby recently as well, so life is fun. Life
Congratulations.
is fun. Help me, Maria. Help me. Save me. Take me on the next trip. I need to get out. No, I'm just kidding. I love my family. Did my wife hear me say that? Okay, I think she heard me. So, anyways, let's talk about where you are now in wrestling because it seemed we go back maybe a month or two ago, these rumblings that your Impact contracts were going to be up, you and Mike, and then suddenly everyone's like, where are they going to go? WWE, AEW, like nobody knew that was the buzz, and you showed up in AEW. Now, what was the decision between WWE and your previous situation with the Vince McMahon regime, with Triple H now in charge? So maybe it's a little different. But AEW, why choose AEW over WWE?
I think AEW is the best situation for my family right now. The schedule is the best.
Mm,
Uh, I also, I love growing and building with companies. I mean, I worked for Ring of Honor. I rebuilt the women's division last year with Bobby Cruz. So, like building, is really interesting to me. And I think that for us, it's just the best schedule we can possibly have with two kiddos.
yeah, I imagine because currently they don't have house shows, so obviously you're not having to go do 3 shows in a week versus doing one
Mhm.
or maybe two, depending on where you are located in pay-per-view. So that makes complete sense because I think a lot of people don't look at that angle. They're like, it must be the money. She hates the WWE. She despises them. It's like, no, she has a family and she wants to figure out how to be with them as much as possible while also working. So a balance of life, but I don't think people understand that part. They just want to dig the dirt.
It's weird, I think, for fans too right now because there's so many women that have kids. And so it's like now we're making different choices and making different decisions based on family when a lot of women, even 10 years ago, once you had a family, you stopped being on the road.
Right.
But now so many of us are on the road. So that decision definitely comes into play, especially because both of us travel. Both of us are on the road. So it's like those are big decisions.
That's true too. Yeah. So
Mhm,
big, but also big decisions. Like about 7 months ago, you started your own wrestling company,
mhm,
Women's Wrestling Army, and then here we are now, about 7 months later. How are
mhm.
you feeling about the presence, the splash in the wrestling world with your company?
think it's growing. It's a gradual process. There's so many wrestling companies out there right now, so much wrestling to watch, like to the point where I'm like, okay, what am I missing? Like I don't know where all my friends are going and what
Hmm.
they're up to, and like I'm trying to keep track of everybody, but at the same time, it's like, we feel like we have a tremendous group of talent. And they're making their own splashes in their own rights in different companies as well. So we find ourselves completely blessed. Yeah, so I mean, we find ourselves in a really good position. I love our relationship with Pro Wrestling TV. We're one of their flagship shows. We've doubled our viewership in the last couple months.
Wow.
So for us, it's growing, and that's what you want to do in a brand new company.
True. Now, where do you see your company in 7 months? Because it's about around April of this year, 2022. You announced this company, and then it started doing tapings in Rhode Island, and then here we are now. Where do you see the company in 7 months from now?
I want to get a bigger TV deal. I want to get more eyes on the product, of course. I think that would be the biggest thing. Eventually, we want to work on our set and work on, the display of things, I guess you would say. But right now, every single taping has gotten better and better. Has gotten more production quality. We've gotten more people behind the scenes. We now have Mark Brown, who was the director for Ring of Honor. He's now directing our shows. So every single time we're trying to up our game in that way.
Nice. And now, so you talked about, each week you feel like your shows are getting better with production value. What were the difficulties of launching the first episode? Like, what did you feel that day? What was happening that nobody knows about, of like the chaos? Oh, the camera batteries are all dead. There's no audio. What are the lights doing?
Well, so there was a lot of those kind of situation. My least favorite thing that we have to do though is hotels and flights. Like, that is the most annoying, tedious, Bobby does flights, I do the hotel, and it is so incredibly tedious. So that's probably my least favorite part of it. But as far as that day production-wise, we the way that the sound was all connected, it wasn't necessarily coming across the way that we wanted it to,
Mm.
for the television product, and so we fixed that finally at this set of tapings. But before this set, it was like you could barely hear the music, and so like the entrances just kind of seemed flat. But I think we fixed that now, and that was a bit chaotic. At the last set of tapings, we had no headsets for our commentary team. And so like that was like a big like, how are we gonna fix this problem with headsets and microphones and all this stuff? And nobody was monitoring the commentary. So if it would have went down, nobody would have known. And that was so scary because nobody could monitor. There was no way of monitoring.
Right.
So yeah, that stuff was very chaotic. This set of taping, we had one illness and two flight problems. So, Lufisto unfortunately wasn't able to make it in at all because of her flight issues. She was like stuck in one place for like 4 hours. Then Sky Blue's flight got delayed, and she's like, I'm just gonna drive. And I was like, you're not driving. Like, it's okay if you miss it. It's and she's like, no, I want to get there. And so she was super dedicated to making it, and she did, but she
Wow.
only made it 1 hour before her match. And so it's like you land and you get to the building and you're wrestling.
Oh
And
my
like
God.
she did fantastic, but like I do not envy those days. Oh, that happened also at our first set of tapings. When Nicole Savoy, her flight ended up getting canceled. Her layover flight got canceled, so she took a train. The train missed her stop.
Oh
So
my God.
yes, and then had to come back. She arrived about an hour before her match time.
God.
Yeah.
It sounds like I want to. I love the wrestling product, but it sounds like I need cameras on all these people going through situations with like the 24 clock in the bottom right corner ticking down to the event. Like, oh, can we get back to the train? The train missed my exit. I'm gonna jump off. Ah, like, oh my God,
Oh,
that's
yeah, and, like, you will see some of that in our documentary because we
yeah.
do have our documentary, and so you see some of that, like, chaos of, like, "Okay, do we have this? Do we need that?" So, Yeah, it's crazy. It really is crazy putting a show together.
So now you're running an all women's company.
Mhm.
And I did see you comment about a few weeks ago. I interviewed Billy Corgan from NWA, and every time I interview him about NWA and Power, no matter what he says, there is a backlash. And you commented about his response to what I was talking about, and he pretty much said twice now he doesn't have enough pay-per-view quality women to put on another NWA Empower. He has to lay down the money, and will he make it back is his concern, which that's his money. So what do you think about the fact that you're running an all women's company?
Mhm.
He can't pull off one event, he's saying, because of quality. Is that a Do you think that it's like he doesn't really know what to do, or maybe he doesn't have the help as he previously did before? Like I don't know. The I want to make sure we go through the right path here and not like crap on Billy, because I like Billy, but at the same time, it's like the wrestling world is upset with him for not doing something again. Maybe he will do it again. He never said every year we're pulling this event off.
Yeah, it's a tough position to be in for sure. And like I like Billy. I've known him for years now. He was always like a big supporter of Mike and myself when we were in Impact. So, our first run there was awesome, and a lot of the, creative ideas, a lot of them came from him. So, I think that that's number 1. And number 2, I didn't comment on what Billy said.
An article that was posted.
So I didn't comment on what Billy had said. I had been asked a question. I never called Billy out. I
Nope.
wouldn't do that. What happened was I was asked a question about an all women show. And my answer is going to be the same. For us, we run an all women show. We do it every 3 months. About right now, we'll probably continue to do an all women show where we are able to tape 10 episodes every 3 months. And do we have the talent within Women's Wrestling Army to put on a pay per view? Yes. I think that that's our product as a whole. Our
Right.
product is all women's or mostly women's wrestling company. So we have to be able to say that we can put on a show. Otherwise, we don't have a product, if that makes sense. Like,
Yes.
if we can't put on a show, then we don't have a show. And I think that's the biggest thing for us. Maybe it doesn't work for Billy, and maybe it doesn't work for NWA and the style they want to put out, or for the reasons that he's outlined in the past, then, that's his decision. For us, because we're an all women show, we have to be able to say that we can put out that product, because we are. And, that at the end of the day, I think is going to continue to be my answer. Um, Everybody in wrestling, I think right now needs to understand that we all need to respect everyone's style of wrestling.
Mm.
Some people love high flying. Some people love ground and pound. Some people want death matches. Some people want technical. None of it is wrong. None of it. It is called preference. That is what makes this industry amazing. It will continue to make our industry amazing. And who knows, there may be styles that we don't even know about yet. Like, who knows what could come up.
Oh
Uh,
my.
but because trios wrestling hasn't been around that long.
Yeah.
It is more of a newer thing. I mean, I was in the trios tournament with Chikara. I'm trying to think how many years ago. Maybe 10 years ago now. So like, but it hasn't been a type of wrestling that has been on a bigger platform in the way that it is now.
Hmm.
So there's always new things that are going to come up, and none of them are wrong. We all love wrestling, so we should all love wrestling together and just be like, "Yay, high five! You like this kind?" Let's continue to evolve in the sense that we can just say, "You know what? That's not my style, so I'm just not going to watch it." We don't need to insult every person that is different. We just need to have fun. And
Yes.
maybe we can learn something along the way. And did I feel like this 15 years ago? No, of course not. I was young and I had different beliefs. But as I've grown older, I have grown to appreciate the fact that I don't know everything. Furthermore, I don't want to know everything. I
Yeah.
want to learn. And so that's my viewpoint on all the chaos that sometimes gets stirred on Twitter or social media.
You say sometimes. You're funny because it's not sometimes. It's a spoon that's constantly stirring. It never stops. It always keeps stirring up the crap. Like for instance, you're in AEW now, so I imagine you were getting tweets of being like, "Oh, you hate WWE," and that's like a common thread of my team versus your team. And I think that's what's weird because it. Do you watch? So like in football, you have a team you root for.
Yes.
In wrestling, it seems that the same thing because it's been WWE and Impact, New Japan, obviously, and Ring of Honor for so long, but like the WWE was always top tier. It was the NFL. But now you have all these companies popping up and actually doing well, creating a buzz, and this is my team versus your team is more prominent than ever going back to WCW and WWE. Like, did you feel that the day you showed up on AEW? How much hate did you receive from anti AEW fans?
A lot. It was amazing, really. And I don't hate WWE.
No,
I had great conversations before we made our decision on where we were going to go. And my husband had great conversations before we decided where we were going to go. And I think, that's the thing that people also need to realize too is a lot of us keep great relationships everywhere. So, Triple H and Stephanie sent huge baskets to our house full of all these kids' gifts after both of my kids. So it was these baskets of, rocking horses and all these different things and clothes and all these really nice gifts for both of my children. And so of course, like, I appreciated that they did that for us back then, and I still think highly of them today.
right.
I think what they're doing is great. I think, I'm excited to see friends like Mia Yim go back, and whoever else is probably going back. Like I think that that's fun, and I still have a great relationship with Scott Demore. Like it wasn't like, oh, I hate Impact, I'm leaving. No,
Mm.
it was a this is the best decision for my family. Sorry, we've all been incredibly sick.
It's
So
funny is this is like the first. I only cough like that at night. During the day, I am super duper all good fine, and then once I lay back down in my bed, I'm like like not be able to breathe. My eyes are just dripping of water, and I'm like, what's happening to me? I'm fine all day.
never been this sick. Like, so I'm actually on the up and up now, but
Me too.
I have never been so sick as I was in the last 2 weeks, and all of us were sick.
Yep.
So I'm like
Same.
trying to take care of my kids, and I'm just like, oh my God, I gotta do this. Okay, they need fed. Like it
Yeah,
was
yeah.
the worst.
I have a baby, brand new baby, about 2 months now, and when you hear a baby go coughing, you're like, my heart's broken, but also I can't breathe either. Like
Yeah,
I'm so sorry. But
you can't do
yeah,
anything.
I think it's going around, and like RSV obviously is a thing for a lot of children right now. But when you send your kids to a public school, at least for me, and then they come back home and they, daddy, and then that was all over all the boogers and the snots of the playground and the doorknobs.
Oh yeah. And this you can't get away from it. It's
Nope,
just
nope.
crazy.
Unless we just
Uh
got in a bubble.
but yeah, so we got all kinds of hate when we were coming and we're like, how could you people were saying, how could you not go back to WWE and all this stuff? And uh, that doesn't necessarily mean we won't go back at some point.
Right.
Just means right now this is our best decision. And I think Tony Khan is a great boss, and I think that he's been treating us tremendously. And I'm excited to see where we go in this crazy industry. But doors are never shut. They're just maybe kind of forgotten about a little bit for a moment, and then maybe you'll come back to them. I've been to all of the companies at this point, so I'm like, yeah, the only ones like I'm thinking MLW. I haven't done MLW before, so I think that's probably the biggest one next that I haven't been to.
Wow. Yeah, you've done it all, it seems. But beating this cough is something you can't do, it seems.
Exactly, 2 weeks. I'm
Oh
probably
my
on
God.
3 now. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so as well for me. When you were getting ready to come to AEW, like obviously your stance right now is, in ring sometimes, but really a manager role, backstage as well. When you were coming to AEW, was the goal to get back in the ring as well, like tear it up, or no, you just off?
Oh no, I don't think it's necessary. There's so many talented women in AEW. They can wrestle. It's great. And I will manage and help out where I can. I think that is probably the best approach I can take to it right now.
Yeah, there's a lot of people hoping. I asked Jade Cargill this about 2 weeks ago, and I mentioned like is so everyone always sometimes it seems like women's wrestling is it gets always criticized the most for good things and bad things. But yet I asked her like about NWA and Power, but I asked her, do you think AEW, they had Forbidden Door, could they pull off an all women's pay-per-view? And obviously with your work in Ring of Honor, rebuilding that brand, and then Impact Wrestling helping along as well, do you think is it in the cards? Like, are you whispering in Tony's ear, "Hey, we should do this"?
So I'm going to give the same answer that I've given to everybody else about this. Um, that right now our goal is tag team gold. And to really just push the kingdom, get them into the spot that we all want to be in. And that's, main eventing as tag team champions. But I think beyond that, is there a possibility because of the amount of talent that they have in AEW to have an all women show? Of course. I think that, they're more than capable of doing so. But I also think like you got to look at it from a perspective of bandwidth. Like how much can you put out there right now on the AEW side when you're trying to take care of, all of AEW's brands plus Ring of Honor.
Right.
So a a smart person isn't going to necessarily add more things unless they already know what every brand situation is going to be, a month from now, 6 months from now. So, I know we don't like to look at things from a business perspective as wrestling fans.
Wrestling business. People forget about this hand a lot. They're always obsessed about why didn't this person get pushed? Why is this match happening? Business.
So, like, there is that side of like, okay, is that the best use of time right now? Or is it now that we're getting several women's matches on pay-per-views that are highly rated and
Oh yeah.
highly um is it better to build that until you get to a place where now you know what your profit is going to be?
Yeah. Yeah. Hater and Storm were outstanding at Full Gear like that. When people honestly, I think that was like that was the match. No, I don't think that was the match of the night. And if anyone argues, I will send Maria after you. But not, I wouldn't do anything. I'm just here interviewing. But I think that was the match of the night, and I think that's where something clicked with I think fans, because the criticism of women's wrestling in AEW has been like this constant like I love you but I hate you. I love you but I hate you. This time around, there was no hate. It was all love, and I think maybe just maybe even Paige being back with Britt Baker as well, a great match as well. Like there's so much happening in AEW with women's wrestling that's positive versus people finding the negative in it. Like, do you feel like maybe something is clicked with fans going, I accept all this now?
Yeah, so a lot of women's wrestling in AEW was very new, like for the women's the women's side, the women's division. Like
Yeah.
the girls were newer, in the sense that not as many people had seen them indie after indie after indie. Like everybody had seen the Young Bucks. I mean, they had traveled the country multiple times, traveled the world, many, many, many times, for years. And so you knew them. As far as the women's division was, the girls weren't as sorry.
We're all suffering. Don't worry. Not suffering, not all suffering from your cough. We're all suffering from being sick.
No, it's okay.
Let me clarify before I get attacked.
So I think, it was building the women's division and the notoriety of all the women in the division. I mean, from Jade to Britt even. I mean, Britt
Oh,
had been
yeah.
on the indies, but not to the stardom level of a Young Bucks. I mean, and not many people have been able to accomplish that on the indies anyways. So you're building all these new talent, which that's what any company wants to do. They want to have homegrown talent that they have built to stars, as well as stars that come from other places. Just like territories, in a much bigger scale.
Right.
So maybe you kind of got to look at it and say, that was building. So for 3 years, they've built their homegrown stars, while bringing in other talent. And now they're to a place where everybody as a fan can go, oh, I see it now. I get it. It's like the puzzle was revealed. And maybe Tony is more of a genius in that sense, in his patience of building it. But that would just be my opinion.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's like when you're building a house, you start with the foundation and someone's like, that's gonna be a house. And then 2 years later, you're like, oh my God, that mansion's amazing. Like all I saw was the basement.
Yeah,
But yeah, it's
exactly.
true. It's true though. I think it took some time to build and accept. Because you're right. Everyone knew Kenny Omega, the Young Bucks, the Bullet Club, the Elite. This transition into this world. People knew Chris Jericho, obviously, and then suddenly you're being introduced. You're like, oh, I've heard of these people, but I don't know these people. And now established talent, Jungle Boy, of course, Luchasaurus. We knew them from one place, but here we are now.
Exactly.
The acclaimed, Jimmy Hayter, Britt Baker, Jade. I think all these people that you kind of heard of but didn't
Yeah.
know of. Now with Jericho bringing in the eyeballs in, now the eyeballs have stayed, and everyone was appreciating the people that we didn't know. Darby Allin is another person. I think
Exactly. I
super
remember
impressive.
seeing Darby and be like, oh, okay. Oh, okay. Like
Right.
I get that, it's
Yeah.
like you need that time. And those aha moments of being like, oh, that's why I'm a fan of this person. You sometimes you go to an indie show and it's some of the people you've never seen before. And so you're watching, and some people you super connect with, and some you're like, but then you see them again and you're like, oh, I get it
Right.
now.
Yeah. Yeah. When
That
sometimes you go to those like live shows and you're going to meet like I remember going to a live show to meet Simon Diamond, and I was like, I want to meet Simon Diamond. And then as I was there, I was introduced to Samoa Joe actually, and I was like,
oh,
oh my God. I was like, who is this person? And then TNA,
yeah.
he got brought in, and then the world is his.
That was my first. So the first time I ever went to Ring of Honor was when I was still a part of WWE, and I had never heard of Ring of Honor before. I didn't know what that was. I remember going and just being like, "Oh my God, why doesn't everybody know this?
Yes.
Why don't people know?" Like I was mad because people didn't know this company Ring of Honor. Like I had known them for years, but I hadn't. I had just gone to one show,
Yeah.
and now I thought I could educate the world on it.
Yeah.
And it's like that, but that's how it is, and that's how you grow, is you grow these fan bases, and then you add and you add and you add. And that's how I think this women's division in AEW has been, is now, now they're adding and adding and adding to it. And now it's like this really cool, strong division.
Yeah.
And now you're going to add the spice and the story and the good stuff, and the stuff that like will connect a fan to a wrestler for life. And yeah, I think that's I think that's the really cool part about the women's division in AEW, is that I now think they're building fans for life.
Wow, that's true. I know it's such a young company. It's hard to be like, I'm a fan forever. But obviously the growing in the building gets you there. It wasn't like WWE or even Impact when it was on TNA and NWA TNA when it was on Wednesdays. Pay-per-views $10 a pop, 8 to 10. That's how it started, and then obviously things have gone on. But Maria Kanellis, thank you so much for being here on 10 Count because I had so much to talk to you about women's wrestling. I always love to sit down and talk with you. Last time I remember we talked about, what you did way, not way, but like 10 years ago. Now we're talking about what you're doing now. Women's wrestling, kicking ass, taking names, AEW. Well, thank you so much for being here. And remember, happy holidays and take care of that cough. Take care
Oh,
of that
thank you
cough.
so much. You take care of that family of yours.
I will try. I will try. My children are berserker crazy, but I am so happy, blessed, and loved. So thank you so much for being here. I'm Miss Fall. She's Maria Kanellis. Have a wonderful day, and we'll see you next time. Bye bye.